Welcome to Win Talk Radio, where you will learn how to talk truth and take action. Hosted by WIN, Women Impacting the Nation. Join your hosts, Sue Trombino, founder and president of WIN, Debbie Healy, public policy advisor for Faith, Family, and Freedom, Carrie Campos, co-founder of Self-Evident Ministry, and Jannique Stewart, founder of Love Protects Ministry and speaker with Life Training Institute. For more information about Win Talk Radio, go to our website at womenimpactingthenation.org. Because remember, when we show up, we win. Well, welcome back to another episode of Win Talk Radio, where we are talking truth and taking action. And I'm really excited today to not only introduce you to one of our co-hosts, Jannique Stewart, and we have Debbie Healy at the end there with the blue shirt on. And then we're really excited to have our guest on today, Juliana Taimoorazy. And we're going to be talking about the persecuted church. And so I'm just really, really excited about that. But we're, taping here in Liberty. As you know, we're on the road all the time. And so we get to tape wherever we are. And of course, as our behind the scenes awesome people, Mike and Jerry, they are always with us and taping and doing all their awesome work that we don't have a clue of what they're doing, but they do it very well. Anyway, we just like to have fun around here. But this is, we're really excited today because we have a really, really special guest. And I met Juliana Taimoorazy. We were just talking about, I can't believe it was 16, 17. And so she spoke at our last women's conference up in Palm Beach. And I'm really excited to have you all listen to who she is, what she does, because we're going to do quite a few segments on her, because it's just very important for everybody to really get involved in what she's doing. But it was really awesome when Juliana, she started the Iraqi Christian Relief Council, but she gave us an amazing gift at our conference, and it was an incredible coin. And we're going to be talking about that coin because we still have it, and it's just a very, very special gift. But Juliana, you just came in from Chicago, and we're very grateful that you're here. We're very blessed that you're here.
Thank you.
And but tell our audience and us again. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you were born, and how did you end up here in America? Because
Thank you.
I know you're from Iran.
Yes.
And so, but anyway, so we can't wait to hear what you're having to say.
And I'm so honored to be among you. I'm so honored to be on this program. It's really exciting when I received the invitation. So thank you, Sue. Thank you, ladies, so much for this opportunity. I flew from the icy Chicago to this beautiful weather you have here in Florida. I was born and raised in Iran. Ethnically, I am an Assyrian, and I grew up as a Christian in Iran, and we came under heavy persecution and heavy harassment starting in 1979 after the fall of Shah. I remember my mother was crying. She was standing outside our door, and as protesters in 1979 were going by saying the king has left, the king has left, and my mom was crying. So this man came and grabbed her with her shirt, with her collar, pinned her to the wall, and said, "Your father has gone. Now you see what we will do to you, dirty Christians." And that's when it all began for us. They tried to force me to convert to Islam at school by reciting the Shahada, and I would refuse. They kept on, one of the teachers kept on throwing me out of class because she would debate the Holy Trinity with me. And I was 13 years old, and I really didn't understand the theology that well, but I would defend Christianity. So finally, my father decided to smuggle me out of Iran. He first paid $25,000 to smuggle my brother, who was a physician, who at the time was being harassed for not, the patients would not allow him to touch them because he was a Christian and they were Muslims, and we were considered najis, unclean. And that was not it was the time. It was our time to go. So he smuggled him first. My father did, and then he paid another $25,000 to smuggle me out in 1989. And that's a whole different story of how we came to know this. Finally, the right smuggler to take me out of Iran into Switzerland and then into Germany, where we sought religious asylum. And by grace of God, we were accepted as a whole family, as a family unit, to come to the States.
And you were 13.
By the time I was smuggled out, I was 16 already.
Oh my gosh.
It took us about a year to find the right smuggler who would do right by us. And so I came to this blessed country as a family. We came together, and I remember, in fact, yesterday on the plane, I was telling the lady next to me, I said, when we landed in New York at the JFK, I bent down, touched the ground, and I kissed the ground, because ever since I was a child, I wanted to come to the United States. I grew up dreaming of America, and I had a little flag that was sent to us by my cousins who lived here. So coming to the United States 31 years ago was a dream come true by grace of God.
Well, and here it's amazing how here you have somebody that was not only smuggled, has gone through all this persecution, and then you come here to the United States and you're grateful. Isn't that a concept?
Immensely.
You're grateful to be here. And we're not perfect in the United States, Juliana, but we are exceptional, aren't we? And I've always talked about how, I believe every American should be made to live overseas, because then you'll come back here and kiss the ground you walk on.
Absolutely.
And here you are, you've been persecuted, you come here, and you have people here, and we won't get into this too long, but we have people in Congress, we have people in the United States that, and you came here legally, but people come here illegally, and then they want something from our government. And you have people in Congress that just don't even get it. And yet here you are, and you're so grateful to be here as an American. And that's just, that's just amazing, isn't it not? So did you come here, so you came to New York, and then from New York, where did you go?
We came to Chicago because our sponsor lived in Chicago. My mother's uncle had sponsored us to come here legally, as you said. We waited 11 months to come here legally. My brother stayed 2 years in Germany to enter this country.
So can you just say that again? You waited 11 months to come here legally. So you didn't cross over any borders, come here and just kind of, and then just take from our government, whatever.
Correct.
You came here, waited, paid the price, and then you came here.
Absolutely. And this is why it breaks my heart to see what has become of the United States when people come. Look, migrants built America, but they love America. We came here. We want to become Americans. We want to learn the language. We don't stay in our cocoons. We want to be a part of the American system, the American way of life, and contribute to this country as great citizens. But unfortunately, not some of those people that come here, they don't come here because they love this land. They come here because they want to change the way of life.
Right.
And it's devastating. And I see Christian refugees out of Iraq who have applied legally to come to the United States, and yet the doors are closed to those Christians who have paid a heavy price for being Christians, for being who they are, and they want to come to this country legally, and unfortunately they're not able to come. And we're not accepting them.
And I think we forget that as Americans, and we're not teaching that to our children. Immigrants did come into this country and were the foundation of this country because they wanted to assimilate. They wanted that common goal of what America could offer them. They didn't want to come from a foreign country and then have their same, way of
life.
Yes,
their
exactly.
laws, their
Wherever they
Sharia
were.
law.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And that's what we need to just reinforce. We welcome immigrants, but coming for the right reasons.
Yes.
Not to come in, like Sue said, through the back door, sneaking in, and then just milking our government, which our government is us. It's what we are supporting our government with, and they're just raping our country. And that's where we have to stop. And we have to, by having people like you come on to talk about your immigration status, how you've been persecuted, it's so important that we realize, as Sue says, we are not, a perfect nation, but we are exceptional. People are fighting to come in.
Yes.
They're not fighting to leave.
Absolutely.
And for you to be able to come over as a Christian so you could have your faith.
Yes.
What we forget in this country, people fight for their freedoms, and we in America are just standing back and just letting our freedoms go. We're not even trying to stand and fight for them. And it's just such, it's just so important that we keep your people like you, your stories alive.
You know, I was talking to a young woman just last week who was born here, and she, a lot of her peers are on the far left, very far left, and I assumed that she was one of them, right? And when she started speaking, she said, well, I know your political stance and I know who you are, so I can be free with you and say that, yes, I was brainwashed at the time. Also, I was one of them, but then I realized, look, wait a minute, my parents went through so much to bring me, to come here, for me to be born here, to adhere to the United States laws and to its principles. And yet what is being taught at school is completely opposite of the values of the United States. So she said, I quietly walked away from that, but yet I'm afraid at school to speak up and say, guys, let's put a pause on this and let's think about who we are, what the principles of this country are. And I said, I want your peers for a month to go to live under the tyranny of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Go live in Libya, go live in Syria, and let's see how you will go out on the streets and speak against the government, and yet not be tortured and imprisoned for an indefinite time, or never come out and your family will never know what happened to you. So it absolutely breaks my heart to see. Yes, we are not a perfect nation, but which nation is a perfect nation? I think we've spent so much time righting the wrongs that we have done in the past, and I think people really need to pause and really reflect on the foundation that our forefathers, and it's such a genius matter put together for us to be able to be blessed to be here.
You know, you had said in the beginning that you were a Syrian, living in Iraq.
Iran.
Yes. So what does that mean for somebody like me to say, I understand, I acknowledge your heritage, I don't really understand it?
Yes. So our homeland, ancestral homeland, is northern Iraq, southern Turkey, northwestern Syria. Northeastern Syria, sorry. So southern Turkey, northern Iraq, northeastern Syria, that was the bastion of the Assyrian nation. Assyrians from the Old Testament, we remember the Ninevites, we were conquerors, and yet we gave also so much to civilization. The first irrigation system, city planning, the writing system came from Mesopotamia, right, by the Sumerians. The Nineveh fell in 612 before Christ to the Babylonians in the southern part of Mesopotamia, and the Persians to the east. And so since then, we've lived under the mercy of our overlords. The Greeks came, the Romans came, the Persians came, and we paid a heavy price for also being the Christians, because we converted to Christianity through St. Thomas the Apostle, Thaddeus, and Bartholomew in northern Mesopotamia. So we have been Christians since 70 AD. And till this day, we pay a heavy price. The first persecutors were the Persians, the Zoroastrian Persians, that killed 140,000 Assyrians in today's Kirkuk during the Easter time in 5th century. And we've faced persecution, and today we came under the attacks by ISIS in 2014. So the Assyrian, by heritage, I am an Assyrian. Race-wise, we're Semitic, like the Jews. We're Semitic people, and we share with the Jewish people. We share the Aramaic language. I speak Aramaic.
I was going to ask you, what do you speak? Was it Arabic?
Yes.
It is
Aramaic.
Oh gosh,
our first language is Aramaic.
Okay,
yes.
I'm excited now.
So my ancestors came from northern Iraq and southern Turkey into Iran, but then during the Armenian, Assyrian, Greek genocide by the Ottomans, by the Turks, in 1914, my family escaped to Russia, to former USSR. And the same grandfather that walked on foot to former USSR ended up in a gulag camp 25 years later. So every generation we've been persecuted. Just real quick, when COVID came and my siblings and I were talking, we were saying, where are we going to go from here? The home is now the United States of America. And I said, I refuse to leave this flag. I have, this flag is, I'm going to get emotional. The United States has given me everything I have through grace of God. And I will lay my life for this country. I will lay my life down for this country, this flag. So we said, whatever happens, still America is the best place on earth for us to be in.
You know, it's amazing how we've always said that here. I've said that since I started WIN. I said, you know, we've not only, if Americans are in a bubble, and we think that's not going to happen here. This is America. And then, you know, I've always said, if you continue to become apathetic, disengaged, disinterested, and you lose America, where do you all go from here?
Exactly.
Everybody in the world wants to come here. Where do we go?
Exactly.
Right? So I'm very excited to continue this conversation. And so just remember that, you know, you can, we're going to be right back, but go check us out at 844-946-8255 is our phone number, or you can go to womenimpactingthenation.org. And, or if you want to email us with questions on what Juliana's saying, you can go to win@womenimpactingthenation.org. But, you know, please, you know, give us your feedback, because we love to, we talk truth and we take action here. But we're going to be right back and with another conversation with Juliana and Jannique and Debbie. So we'll be right back.
Here at Win Talk Radio, our heart is to encourage people and give them hope. As Christians and conservatives, we spend so much time focusing on the negative and what the left is doing and what the Democrats are doing, when the reality is God is moving powerfully, and we see it everywhere we go. He's waking up people, opening their eyes to the truth. And so the very reason, or the very thing that we see as a negative, that the media is not showing us the positive proves that we are winning the day. And so we just want to encourage you to take a stand, take a fight, speak boldly, because people are listening and God is opening eyes. And so the reality is when we show up, we win, and God will win the day through his people when we do it together in unity.
Well, welcome back to our segment with our incredible guest, Juliana Taimoorazy with the Iraqi Christian Relief Council. And I'd like to say to you, Bashena Derahon.
Excellent.
See that? Excellent. I am so excited. We've been having so much fun here. And even though we have a lot of serious conversations and a lot of serious topics, we like to have a lot of fun. And Mike and Jerry behind the scenes are... they are sworn to secrecy about some of the things that happen here, right, Mike? Okay. Anyway, but we were talking again about with Juliana coming here, being persecuted, coming here to the United States, and how she is so blessed to be an American. And it's amazing to me when you talk to people, because you know, a lot of you know that I was born in Venezuela, so we know when you having grown up here in the United States, you weren't born here in the United States, you really, and I think, you know, Jannique was born in Germany, so you really see things sometimes a little differently. Or when you've served in the armed services like Debbie has, you really see things a little differently, and we don't take being American citizens, whether naturalized or otherwise, or born here, for granted. And just as somebody from Venezuela, we were talking, I think that when you said that you think that people should stay over there or go somewhere for a month, you know, whether in Iraq, Syria, Iran, I've said, you know, I will give somebody a free ticket to Venezuela, to Caracas, but the caveat is you got to stay there for 10 days. And you say a month, I say 10 days, they wouldn't last 3 days. And I think you agree with that.
Absolutely.
But we just want to continue to. I know that Jannique had some questions for you, and
Sure.
you know.
Well, at first I actually wanted to kind of hear more about what is it that led you to, because you are the founder and president of the Iraqi Christian Relief Council. So tell us about what was the genesis of that? What actually led you to actually start that?
Thank you for that question. So because of what my own ancestors have gone through, what my family has gone through, my great-grandmother in 1919, December of 1919, was burnt alive by the Turks during the genocide of the Assyrians and Armenians and Greeks. My great-uncle was dragged behind his horse in northwestern Iran in Urmia because he was a Christian. My other great-uncle was cut into pieces, sent to his wife in a rice bag because he was a priest. So everything that my family has gone through and my nation has gone through for centuries since we have become Christians in 70 AD, I could not remain silent. I could not do what I do today if I had lived, if my parents had not the vision to bring me out of Iran. So we needed a voice. We have many activists who are trying to do the best by our nation. But what I noticed in 2006, starting 2003 with the invasion of Iraq, 1.5 million Iraqi Christians. No one spoke of them. Everyone spoke of the Kurds and the Arabs and what's happening there. Iraq is the ancestral homeland. It's the bastion of civilization. It's where we call it the second Holy Land for all the biblical activities that has happened in Iraq. And no one talked about the indigenous people of Iraq, what was happening to them under Al-Qaeda. And then came ISIS, right? I met with Cardinal Francis George, who was the president of the Catholic Bishops' Conference in 2007. And I said, what is the Vatican doing to help the persecuted church in Iraq? And they invited me to a meeting. I went to the Archdiocese of Chicago, and they encouraged me to start this ministry to educate people about who the Iraqi Christians, the Assyrians, Chaldeans, and Syriacs are. And I wrote a letter to God, which is on our website under About Us. I remember it was July 25th of 2007, and I said, Lord, you're asking me to do something that I've never done before. My education is in a completely different field. But if you lead me, I will go. And we started the organization. We became a crisis relief organization right away. But we also do advocacy work as well internationally. We only have 150,000 Iraqi Christians left. That's a 90% drop in 19 years.
Well, the reason that I actually think that's really important for our viewers is I don't think people realize in the United States there's approximately 320 million people. But when you consider, according to Open Doors USA, the statistic is there are approximately 340 persecuted Christians.
Worldwide, absolutely.
So think about that number. Think of all the people in the United States, but imagine even more than that. That's how many Christians are being persecuted right now.
Across the world. Yes. Nigeria, North Korea, China, the Middle East. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that statistics up. That's extremely important to talk about that and thank you for drawing that comparison. More people are being persecuted throughout the world for believing in this beautiful faith of ours. And we cannot turn a blind eye. Elie Wiesel said, listening to a witness makes you a witness. And thanks to you, I'm able to talk about this persecution issue. And now that you know about this, the Holy Spirit is putting that responsibility on your shoulders because knowledge bears responsibility. So, and a lot of people say, Jannique, thank you for bringing that point up. A lot of people say, okay, it's happening throughout the world. What am I supposed to do? What can I do? I'm living here in the United States. I cannot pick up arms to go fight, or I may not have enough funding to help those people. You can talk about these stories. You can raise awareness. You can pray. And that is the least I think we can do.
Can you give them your website?
Sure. Our website is IraqiChristianRelief.org, IraqiChristianRelief.org. You can see some of our projects there. You can learn about my own background, the background of the organization, what we have been doing since 2007 in the Middle East, and also here in the United States and in other places.
What kind of support do you get from our government? What kind of interaction do you have from our government to help support your relief efforts?
So it depends on the administration, frankly. Under Obama, there was very little we couldn't even get meetings that often in Washington, D.C. Under President Trump, Vice President Pence, in fact, diverted a lot of the aid from the United Nations to NGOs and churches on the ground. That was a big help for us. And I'm going to be honest with you, one of the members of the House, back in 2015, we were visiting Israel together. And out of the goodness of his heart, with all of his love, because he devoted 40 years of his life to fighting freedom and religious freedom, fighting religious freedom, for religious freedom, he said, Juliana, your people are dispensable to the policies of the United States. You are not that many left in Iraq. You're not rich, and you don't have a big army. So you don't hold much value to the U.S. policy. Hearing that was jarring, but I know him, and I know he said it with utmost love. But it's reality of what he was saying. Unfortunately, we're not being assisted in a serious way.
And obviously not with this administration.
I've not heard anything from this administration. In fact, we appealed to President Biden back on August 31st not to withdraw the 2,500 troops that are left in Iraq because of the Iranian influence that there is today in Iraq. The Nineveh Plain, which is the ancestral homeland for the Assyrian Christians, and that's where ISIS really destroyed a lot of homes and a lot of infrastructure there. Iran has seized the opportunity to infiltrate, and it's using it as a corridor to the Mediterranean. So Iranian influence should be extremely worrisome for the United States security, national security. But unfortunately, a lot of that is being ignored, and I believe that the troops, I have not found out if they have completely pulled out yet, but they were supposed to pull out by December 31st. Back in 2011, when Obama pulled the troops out, that gave a rise to Islamic State of Iraq. Islamic State of Iraq really came into existence in 2006 and 2007, Islamic State of Iraq. And Biden back then had said, until Iraq becomes an Islamic state, we're not going to rest. And then we saw what happened in 2014 with Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. And it wreaked havoc not just on Christians and the Yazidis, but also on the Iraqis who did not, Iraqi Muslims who did not adhere to their form of Sharia law.
Do you also find that most people don't realize or don't even take it seriously, the number of persecuted Christians? Because I think it was in 2016 that the United States finally recognized the genocide that took place.
Yes.
And I don't believe that's actually being taught in most schools. Many people know about the Holocaust, but they don't really know about what happened with even the Armenian genocide or the Assyrian genocide. So can you speak to that a little bit about? It's almost like it's a forgotten people group.
Yes, absolutely. We, in fact, Secretary Kerry, right after he announced this as a genocide, he went to Iraq, but he really did not, it was not majorly on his agenda to discuss this with the Iraqi government at the time. It was very much just because we were involved with that. The organization I used to work for, the Philos Project, and also under ICRC, my current organization, we worked very hard with Secretary Saperstein, Ambassador Saperstein at the time, to bring this to Secretary Kerry. I think it was just symbolic. I mean, look at Rwanda. That was just a symbolic recognition of the genocide there, right? So I really commend the Armenian community for not letting the world forget about the Armenian genocide. But not many know that 2 out of 3 Assyrians were killed alongside the Armenians. Again, my family members were among them. But we are a forgotten people on many levels. From the church perspective, a lot of people just don't connect to the Church of the East, the Eastern churches. We may look different, speak different, a different language, and a lot of people say, have you accepted Christ as adults, or were you just baptized and you're cultural Christians? And my argument with that philosophy is, we have gone to the cross. There are many that were crucified under Al-Qaeda and under ISIS later on their doorstep, outside Baghdad. Children were crucified, children were beheaded. There's not I mean, they gave up their life for Christ, right? So the church, unfortunately, in the West is comfortable. And I'm being critical. They're comfortable with their own four walls, with their own missions. And we need to really talk about the eastern lung of the church, which, as Pope John Paul said once, church breathes with both lungs, the right and the left lung. And St. Paul said, we're all members of one body. I mean, look, if we have a headache, we just don't want to get out of bed, right? So the original Christians have been persecuted for many, many centuries. And I remember there was a meeting in Detroit in 2008 where the Eastern churches had come together and met with the Western church leadership. And a Catholic priest actually stood up and said, just come out of your areas and come to America. We welcome you. You can practice your faith here. And this Palestinian Christian bishop said, with all due respect, Monsignor, Jesus was not born in New York. And it hurts me to see more Palestinians or other Christians from the Middle East leaving and living in the United States rather than keeping the fort
Staying
there.
in their homeland.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And because, it's not just, we're not just Christians, we also have a heritage. Our heritage is the Assyrian heritage, right? When we come to the West, although I'm for assimilation, but not losing our Aramaic language, our
Right.
traditions, we have to keep that alive. And the homeland for us, in our case, was northern Iraq, was Nineveh. And what Jews adore Jerusalem, we adore Nineveh. But we are unable to keep it because of the persecution. And we escape.
There's so much here. I'm sitting here thinking, I've got so many questions. And I really want our audience to hear more about this, because I think we really are in a bubble and we have no idea what it's like to be persecuted. You may not have some toilet paper on the shelf for a little bit, but that's nothing what's about to come down the pike and what people, like Juliana and her people have come. So I really want to, what we're going to do is we're going to come back on another segment and talk about that, because I don't want it to, because if I start asking some more questions, then it's going to go into another segment. So I just really want you all to really, if you have to hear this podcast again and again, really listen to the history that Juliana has just explained to us, what has been going on, and really hear her heart, because this is our heart, is to bring back well, I won't even get into this because it's going to be crazy. But just please come back on another podcast to hear us, on the next segment. And remember to come and join us at womenimpactingthenation.org, or call us at 844-946-8255. And just always remember, when we show up, we win. Just like Juliana, she showed up, and she's winning in her area of in her gifts, as we were talking earlier about. Don't put your gift, or your talent underneath, into the sand. And she hasn't. She is reaping a lot of things, and we have so much more to unpack here. But just remember, when we show up, we win, and we will see you on another One Talk Radio podcast.
Thank you for joining us at Win Talk Radio. For more information, contact us at womenimpactingthenation.org for questions, suggestions, or for more information, call us at 844-946-8255. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Win Talk Radio. And remember, when we show up, we win.